They were pushing me down the hallway in a wheelchair when I checked my right hand. Not because anything hurt. Just habit. The way you test a tool you haven't used in a while. Press the fingers, check the grip. My right side hadn't been cooperating since February. The hand looked fine. It wasn't. 6 weeks before that, I was standing in my kitchen. The kitchen I framed myself in 1982, listening to my daughter tell me the house was too big for me. I didn't answer for a long time. Lyndall took that as agreement. She was wrong, but I understand why she thought it. And 21 years before that, in 2004, I drove to my attorney's office at 11 o'clock at night and signed papers I never told anyone about. Terrence notarized them. I drove home in the dark. Didn't mention it to a single person. Not even Lyndall. Especially not Lyndall. If you want to know how those 3 moments connect, stay with me. And if stories like this are why you're here, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe to Familix's Revenge. It helps me keep sharing them. There's a blue enamel mug on my counter. My wife bought it from a woman selling things out of a station wagon on the side of a Tennessee highway in 1981. Cost $2. I've used it every single morning since. Longer than my daughter has been alive. I don't think about that usually. I thought about it a lot in the hospital. Every morning, same corner of the counter, standing up. I never sit for coffee. Don't know when that started. The kitchen window lets in light at a bad angle. Hits you right in the eye around 7:15. I built that window myself and I knew it was wrong while I was building it. Meant to correct it. Moved on. 42 years later it still hits you in the eye at 7:15 and I still don't sit down. I planted 4 apple trees in 1989. South-facing slope, Chapel Hill clay soil. You have to know what you're working with, or you'll lose them in year 2. I grafted them myself from 4 different varieties. I can tell them apart by leaf shape without looking at the fruit. Linda used to call them Dade's trees. The way children name something they love, but don't consider theirs. When she started calling me about selling, about simplifying, about a place called Pine Hills Senior Living, I was usually looking at those trees. I told myself that was coincidence. There's a canvas roll in the bottom drawer of my workshop bench. Inside it, a wooden crane, hand-cut joints, working arm mechanism. I started it for my grandson Oliver when he was 4. He stood at Lyndall's window for 40 minutes once, watching a construction crew across the street. Didn't fidget. Didn't ask questions. Just watched how the pieces connected. I recognized that. I went home and started the crane. Oliver is 7 now. I never finished it. I kept meaning to bring it over, make it a proper gift, write a note. The canvas roll stayed in the bottom drawer. He didn't know it existed. Neither did anyone else. Lyndall is 51. She lives 40 minutes away with her husband Richard. 3rd business venture in 6 years. None of them finished enough to succeed. None failed badly enough to stop. I had been quietly covering shortfalls for years, not because she asked. She never asked. I told myself sending money without being asked was a form of presence. I had not examined that conclusion carefully, and I should have. She called me about practical things. The house, my health, the car, money, adjacent topics. I answered the practical layer and didn't reach for anything underneath. We had been doing this for roughly 20 years. Neither of us chose it exactly. It formed the way silt forms. So, gradually you don't notice until the riverbed has changed, and you can't remember what it looked like before. The stroke happened on the phone with Lyndall. She was explaining Pine Hills, the waiting list, the amenities, how they might make an exception for me. I was about to say no. I don't remember saying it. I woke up in a hospital bed with my right side, not responding correctly, and Paul Abbott, sitting in the chair by the window. Paul being there told me everything I needed to know about how long I'd been out. That was week 1. Week 3, a letter came with the breakfast tray. County Assessor, routine property tax notification, my name on the envelope. I read it once. Something about an ownership transfer initiated. I read it again. My processing speed had slowed since the stroke, and I knew it, and I hated knowing it. But I didn't say that to anyone. I set the letter on the tray and waited for Terrence's afternoon visit. Terrence, read it. Read it again. Looked up at me. Gideon. Someone attempted a sale. I said, attempted. He said, Preservation Trust blocked it. Automatically. I looked at the window. No apple trees visible from this floor. Then I said, the Cadillac. He said he'd check. It confirmed within the hour. I'd transferred the car to Lyndall's name in 2019 for tax reasons and forgotten. She'd sold it. That one was legal. Nothing to be done about that one. I asked the nurse for pen and paper. She brought them without asking why. I started drawing the house, floor plan, from memory the way I'd drawn it 100 times over 40 years. My right hand wasn't reliable, so I used my left. The lines were wrong. Every measurement off. Bathroom on the exterior wall. Northeast corner misaligned by what looked like 3 feet. I knew they were wrong while I was drawing them. I kept going for 11 minutes. Nobody stopped me. When I finished, I folded it up and put it in the drawer with my wallet. I called Paul before I called anyone else. That's all you need to know about what he means to me. She sold the house, Paul. Long pause. The apple trees too. All of it. Tried to. Another pause. Gideon, how long has she been planning this? I don't know. I do, he said. I've known for 3 years. The line stayed open. Neither of us filled it. Finally, I said, you still should have told me, he said. I know. That night I lay in the hospital bed and did the accounting. Not legal strategy, just arithmetic. The house the trust had held. Sale block, that part would resolve. The Cadillac gone legal, nothing to be done. Then I got to Oliver and Isabella and I stayed there a while. If Linda left, which she might, which I would in her position, I wouldn't see them. Oliver is 7. The crane was in the bottom drawer, unfinished. I looked at the ceiling tiles. Installed wrong, offset pattern, should be staggered. Whoever did it was in a hurry. I thought about Oliver for a long time. Then I made myself stop because it wasn't useful yet. That's what I told myself. Wasn't useful yet. Before I slept, I opened the bedside drawer and took out the floor plan. Wrong measurements, wrong corners, drawn with the wrong hand. I unfolded it and looked at it for a while. The mistake I could identify: bathroom on the exterior wall. The mistake I couldn't identify yet: everything I'd left unfinished that wasn't on any blueprint. I folded it. Put it back. I built the house right the first time. I wasn't sure I'd built anything else right. That was the night I started wondering. Terrence filed a cease and desist. Lyndall's attorney challenged it. Procedural technicality, wrong county filing. 2 more weeks minimum. Terrence called to tell me. I said, fix it. He said, already fixing it. I hung up and called Paul. 2 weeks, I told him. He said, for what? I said, I don't know yet. Something. That was the first time since the stroke I sounded like myself. Not the careful hospital voice. My actual voice. The one that had been on job sites at midnight fixing load calculations nobody else caught. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, and asked her to go to my workshop and bring the canvas roll from the bottom drawer of the bench. She brought it that afternoon without asking what was in it. That was the right thing. I would have said, just tools. And it would have been true, and it would have been a lie. That evening the crane pieces were on the hospital bedside table. I worked one-handed. Got the first 3 joints wrong and had to undo them. The nurses learned not to comment on it. Speech therapy, that week. Small room, nurse Adrienne across from me. Simple sentence exercise. I tried to say, preservation trust, the 2 words that had kept everything from falling apart. The phrase broke in my mouth. Pres, then nothing. 3 attempts, each one shorter. Jaw tight, hand flat on the table. Adrienne didn't adjust. Didn't fill the silence. She wrote on a notepad and slid it across preservation trust. I looked at it for a long time. Again, she said. I did not say it. I read it in someone else's handwriting. Those 2 words are the reason the house is still mine, and I couldn't speak them out loud. Lyndall came unannounced, mid-week. Brought coffee, my brand, she remembered. Set it on the tray. You look better, she said. Terrence was here yesterday, I told her. Brief pause. Oh. Went over some things. She put a nursing home brochure on the tray. I looked at the ceiling. The tiles in this room are wrong. They don't alternate the way they're supposed to. Whoever laid them was in a hurry. Long pause. I'm trying to help Dad. I know, I said. Near the end she asked, casual, about the property. Had I thought more about simplifying? The house is taken care of, I said. What does that mean? Means it's taken care of. She left with the brochure. I picked up the crane and worked for a while. Terrence came in person that time. He didn't usually. I noticed that before he said anything. He'd driven over instead of calling, which meant something was wrong that he didn't want to deliver through a phone. He sat down and didn't open his briefcase immediately. Is there anything on this property I don't know about? I said no. He said there was a lion from 1999. Renovation dispute. Said settled privately. The discharge had never been filed. I looked at Terrence's briefcase on the floor. Still closed. I settled it myself. I was going to file the discharge. I stopped. He said, when? I didn't answer. We both knew when. 2 more weeks. Maybe 3. After he left I called Paul. Foundation had moisture, I told him. I said it would. Never said it to myself. What does that mean? I said. I knew and didn't file the paperwork. For how long? 25 years. Silence. Then, Gideon, I said, I know. There was a night in 1991 I've thought about more than most. I came home late, nothing unusual, and Lindell's third grade project was on the kitchen table. Cardboard bridge, toothpicks, construction paper. She was already in bed. I looked at it. The load distribution was wrong. Center span would deflect under any real weight. So I fixed it. Went to sleep. She got an A+. Never knew I'd touched it. I told myself I was helping. I should have left it wrong and let her come to me with the problem. I fixed it instead. That's what I did with most things, corrected them quietly, without telling anyone, and called it being useful. It wasn't the same thing. Terrence called 2 days later. Lindell and Richard had accessed the property and were removing personal items. Someone had told them the attorney was involved. I knew immediately. I called Paul, he said. I know. I called Richard. I shouldn't have. I said no. He started explaining 3 years of watching, of staying quiet, and I said, I know what you were. Pause. I didn't ask you to. He said my name. I said, I know, and hung up. I wasn't angry at Paul. That would have been simpler. What was lost wasn't the legal case, it was time, and some things from the house. Her mother's things, mostly. I decided that was acceptable. Didn't say it out loud. Saying it out loud felt like a door I wasn't ready to open. Week 5, my phone showed a missed call from Lindell. She'd left a voicemail. I played it once. Her voice came through fragmented, like she'd started and stopped several times before hitting record. I want you to know I didn't. Richard said you wanted to simplify. He said you mentioned it. I don't know what I thought. I thought you'd be relieved. A pause. Then, I know that's not, I know. That was all. I held the phone for a while. I didn't play it again. Didn't delete it either. I still don't know if Richard lied to her, or if she needed to believe something badly enough that it became true. Both are possible. I've had both kinds on a crew. I called Terrence and said move forward. Then I picked up the crane. The arm mechanism was wrong. I'd assembled it incorrectly 2 nights before. I took it apart and redid it. Third attempt worked. Terrence came in person again. Good news this time. Preservation trustfully upheld, sale invalidated. Lindell's attorney had withdrawn. I said, the Bennetts. He said they could pursue Lindell directly, that it wasn't my liability. I said, I'm the engineer of record. He said, Gideon, this isn't a job site. I said, same principle. He didn't argue. He's known me 40 years. Before he left, I asked if the buyer's father was James Bennett. File check, Thomas Bennett's son. Jim Bennett's son. I said, Jim was on my 1987 crew. Terrence said, huh. I said, yeah. Neither of us said anything else about it. That night I did the math on a notepad. Bennett's full deposit against what remained for Oliver and Isabella's trust. I wrote the numbers 3 times. First attempt had an error, wrong column. Second time I got it right and sat with it. The figure for the grandchildren was smaller. I picked up the pen. Put it down. Picked it up again. Didn't change it. The Bennetts hadn't made this mistake. They shouldn't carry it. Terrence called the next morning. Lindell and Richard had left the state. Oliver and Isabella were with them. Oliver and Isabella, I asked, though I already knew. With them, he said. I said, thank you, Terrence, and hung up. I looked at the crane on the table. One joint still unfinished. Needed a tool I didn't have at the hospital. I picked it up, set it down, picked it up again. Oliver had watched that construction crew for 40 minutes without moving when he was 4. I should have taken him to a job site. I kept meaning to. The tool was at home. I would get it when I was discharged. There were things to do. I started thinking about the things to do. First visit outside the hospital was Terrence's office. Will amendment 1 addition. A lump sum for Lindell, enough to clear Richard's remaining debts. No contact requirement attached. I had Terrence file a separate note with it. This is not forgiveness. This is the removal of your last reason to say I gave you nothing. He read it and didn't say anything for a moment. You want this attached separately? Yes. He filed it. I wrote that note 4 times. The first 3 were longer. The new cottage was 1 story. Eastern exposure for the porch, no stairs. First night I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote Lindell's name at the top. I wrote for 40 minutes, 1987, 1991. The bridge she made in 3rd grade that I fixed without telling her. Her wedding. Oliver's birth. The phone calls I didn't make. The 1999 lay-in I never filed, because I kept meaning to get to it. I read it back. Crossed out a line that was an accusation I couldn't prove. Crossed out a paragraph that was self-pity. Crossed out the entire second page because I would have been right and it didn't matter. Half a page left. I folded it, not into an envelope, just folded, and put it in the kitchen drawer. My father kept letters like that. 3 of them in a cigar box in his workshop. To his brother, his father, someone whose name I didn't recognize. None of them sent. I found them after he died, and I thought he was weak for writing them and not sending them. I understand now, he may have been the same kind of man I am. Someone who knew exactly what needed to be said, and couldn't make himself say it while it would have mattered. 1 week later I found the specific tool in the 3rd box I opened. Finished the crane joint, took 4 minutes. Tested the arm mechanism, worked correctly. Set it on the windowsill. I don't have Oliver's address yet. I'll find it. He's 7 now. He may not still like cranes. He did when he was 4. The crane exists regardless. Morning now. New kitchen. Wrong cabinet first, still learning the layout. Second cabinet, blue enamel mug. Coffee standing at the counter the way I always have. No apple tree from this window. Different view. I tapped the counter twice with 2 fingers. Force of habit, checking for level, solid. Different wood than the kitchen I built, but solid. The phone is on the table. Voicemail still on it. I've listened once. I could play it again. I haven't decided. The foundation is sound. The rest can be built.